Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to do is try to, I guess the term I'm looking for is to clarify some issues. And again, I don't know if it's going to clarify anything, but some certain things that have come up that I think are worth talking about as watch collectors. First of all, one of the things that is become a big issue is whether or not your movement on your watch is in-house or not. And then there's a whole issue about in-house and not in-house, and then there's in-group and out-of-group. So that's one thing I'd like to do. I think at this point we can talk about movements being owned by the same group company, such as Swatch owns ETA and Richemont owns Val Fleurier. Okay, so those are two in-group ones. To some extent, you've got something else like Vaucher, who are part of this thing that the Sandoz family owns, or the Sandoz Family Foundation owns, that really has a single watch company, Parmigiani, which I happen to have on today. I have on my big old Kalpa, and they're integrated, and so Michel Parmigiani designs a watch. He takes it over to Vaucher. Vaucher puts it together for him. Beauvais also, they own a sort of not a movement company, but a sort of an arm for a technology arm called Demier. H. Moser has something that's called Precision, I think it's Precision Technology. So there's a lot of the brands already have sort of an arm that we can call a movement arm. And the design is one thing, making the case is another. F.P. Journe has there's a outfit that makes cases. He bought it, and I still think they make cases for other people as well. But the movement is a big thing. Now, if we take a look at the current Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève, especially the ones who made the first cut, the 2018 version of it, what we'll see is we'll see some movements by a company that people are beginning to know about, but they don't know too much about, and that is Agenhor. And Agenhor is not a watch company. I don't think they want to be a watch company. They've never been a watch company. What they do, though, is that they're these incredible movement makers, and they will make a movement, and several of their movements have won Grand Prix awards. In fact, Viderec, Jean-Marc Viderec, won I think in 2012, won the Watchmaker of the Year at the Grand Prix. Most people don't know him, even though he's probably, I don't know of any watchmaker who is better than he is. Now, he came out a few years ago with a watch movement that is used by both Singer and Fabergé. The watches with that movement, it's called the Agengraph, by the way, have cleared the first hurdle in the 2018 Grand Prix. So here's another movement company that if you got a movement by them, it was, instead of being considered, well, an outhouse, it's considered to be like very special. Both a company called Singer and Fabergé, who's known as a fashion house more than a watchmaker, All right, so we got these things, and so the question of in-house or not, it's not so much a moot question as maybe it's something that we're paying attention to the wrong thing. And I think perhaps what we need to pay attention to is the quality of the movement. I don't think that too many people will take a look at a Orient watch, and Orient has they're I think they're part of Seiko, but they make their own movements, and whether they're great or not so great, they're in-house, and so they're probably not the top movements, mechanical movements around. I could be wrong, but that's the quality of the materials and everything else may be the other way on that one. All right, but that's what I think we need to ask, is that what is the quality of the movement? I mean, you have, I think that sort of as a standard, you have these, you got guys like Philippe Dufour, you have Roger Smith, you have F.P. Journe, and of course you have Jean-Marc Wiederrecht. Now these guys, their movements are fantastic. Caribou and Lannen, Gerbel and Forcé, any number of sort of these high-ranking or master watchmakers, I guess is a word that I'm looking for, grandmasters. And so they make really great movements. Richard Harbring is another one. And I'm going to say this wrong, Beat Holloman is another guy. Now, these guys make these incredible movements. Typically, though, they're just crazy expensive. I mean, they're out of the range. On the other hand, you have companies like Patek Philippe, Rolex, Vacheron Constantin, Jaeger LeCoultre. They all make really very, very good movements, and they are in-house. And so I think that at one time that wasn't the case with all of them. They would use each other's movements for different kinds of projects. But the point is this: is how do we go about really evaluating a movement's quality? I think that's the most important thing. Now, recently I had a video on Val Fleurier and talked about some of these issues. And ETA, for the last, I don't know what, about 6 months or so, I've been working on movements and by learning watchmaking. And I haven't come very far, but I've come far enough to know is that it can be a daunting task. And by getting into watchmaking, one thing I found out is that designing and creating a movement is no small task. And so when you have someone who can put one together, like Roger Smith or F.P. Journe, you got something pretty special going on there. The same thing with Jean-Marc Wiederrecht and Agenhor. And so you get something like the Agengraph movement, and it's just like, this thing is incredible. All right. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to clarify. This gets going back to ETA. The quality of ETA movements goes along a lot of different lines. One line is that after the quartz crisis, or during the quartz crisis, a lot of traditional, if you can use that term, traditional watchmakers were absorbed into ETA. Among them is Valjoux, which is very famous watchmaker, Lamania. Sorry about my pronunciation. Pazou is another one. Let me see. Unitas, all of these became part of ETA. And so when and they have ETA names. For example, Pazu 7001 is now considered ETA 7001. Unitas 6497, Unitas 6498. A couple pocket watch movements made in 1950 by Unitas, very popular still today. They're used in a lot of watches, but they're all considered ETA. And then on top of that, you got clones. You got two kinds of clones. The patent ran out on a lot of the movements, and so some Chinese companies, especially Siegel, has picked up on them and started making clones of them. And a lot of people, including myself, have got those to work on it. I got a couple 6497s. I also have a Salida something or other. It's 201, I think, is what it was for this course. And yeah, you can work on those things, and in working on them and putting them together and taking them apart and so forth, you can learn a lot about the quality of the movement. And the movements in some watches, this one, for example, you look in the back and you can see the movement. This is another one I have, just happen to have it sitting here, was one that is still a mystery to some extent, and this is called let me see, Jacquet 736, and the Jacquet 736 became La Joux Perret 736 dot something or other. The reason for that is that the guy who designed it originally had to go to jail for doing a bunch of stuff he shouldn't have been doing. He's out now. I've been trying to get in touch with him, and with no luck so far, because I want to talk about this movement. Where did that come from? And because what he had been doing up to then, Jacquet has, and I think La Joux Perret still does, is that they're buying iboches from places like ETA and putting together their own, sort of creating movements from them, which is using the same kind of shells and so forth that you're going to put a movement in. In other words, you use the same kind of plates, and so you're really not doing too much new. But this one, here you have a rectangular movement, and there wasn't anything the ETA has like that. So this becomes something that sort of, to me, is an interesting mystery. How does this guy, who is essentially a movement assembler, I guess. I think that's what Jacquet is best known for. Same thing with La Joux Perret. So we're finding out about those things. And so here's the thing, is that I think there's so many people who want a quick answer, and that's, to me, isn't very much fun. The fun part is to enjoy the hunt, the search. I am so tempted to take this apart, but I'd never do it, because if I did, I may not be able to get it back together again. So or I might break it. And the thing is, there aren't too many of these. This particular movement, the RGM had, I think, 20 or something like that, or 10. And they only have like 2 or 3 left. And when they're gone, I don't know where he's going to get more of those movements, or if he will, or even if they have them anymore. I checked with La Joux Perret. They don't have them. They don't, at least they're not advertising them. And so, but the thing of it is that as collectors, this was another thing I wanted to bring up. As collectors, what do? We're either, buying or flipping watches. If you're, to me, a lot of people collecting watches are like collecting trading cards. You trade them, you flip them. To me, it's something different. It's finding something really good. That's one thing. Something I can afford. That's another thing. And learning about it, because that's, to me at least, is the most interesting thing. I've bought stuff, I've sold stuff. Okay, so that's not rocket science. On the other hand, learning all about these watches, finding what I call sort of the hidden gems is a lot of fun. A lot of people like going with sort of the well-trodden road, and that's fine too. They really enjoy that. But I think that when we start talking about watch quality, we need to go beyond just in-house or not in-house. Because the thing I pointed out is that some in-house may not be the best in the world, and some that you only can get, such as Agenhor, by not being in-house, are like incredibly good. Okay, well, that's what I wanted to do is that's sort of the main thing I wanted to sort of try to clarify. The other thing I want to do is really thinking about collection. What does it mean to collect watches? And it may not be the same thing for everybody. Some people might want to collect nothing but vintage watches and get as many of those as they want, and their idea of a good time is going out and finding some out-of-the-way little jewelry store that's got some kind of gem. I heard from a guy in this little town in England that said, oh, he found golden ellipse. And, you know, maybe you can get a great deal on some kind of vintage watch that the person's selling it. They got a box full of those things. That, to me, is a lot of fun because you're involved in some kind of hunt. Me is a little different. I'm hunting for information more than anything else, and that I like. And others are it's like collecting, you know, baseball cards or trading cards of some sort. But anyhow, what I'd like to do with this is sort of open up that discussion and bring up something else that's really not that easy to talk about, because I don't know that much about it, and that's craftsmanship. How do we judge craftsmanship? Now, we talked about decoration and finishing and so forth, but the whole concept of craftsmanship that goes into a watch, can you see the craftsmanship? I think if with watches like Roger Smith or Kerry Vouten-Lannen, you can actually see it in it. You can see it in the watch itself. And on some of these others that are mass-produced by, and it doesn't matter who, fill in the blanks, the mass-produced ones, can they really have craftsmanship? I don't know. Maybe they can. I mean, there's a watch by Richard Harbring. He makes, I don't know if he even makes 100 watches a year. And then he charges like, I don't think he's got anything over $9,000 or $10,000. There may be some special one that he does, but your Felix is now around, I don't know, it's around $5,500, $5,600. And the one that he entered in the Grand Prix that passed through the first level is a Rattrapant. I don't know, maybe, I have no idea how many of those he created, but the craftsmanship to me would be the big question, not the popularity of it, because his stuff is not that popular. But it keeps winning awards. A little bitty company in Austria, Richard Harbring and his wife, I don't know, and their dog Spot. So these are some of the questions like we have. Craftsmanship versus some other kind of quality, some other measure of quality. Okay, well, that's it for today. And I know this one's been different than what I usually do, but I just was a lot of these things sort of cropped up and wanted to get your thoughts on this. Okay, so until next Friday, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Side, the art and science of watch collection. Oh, and by the way, this is always, if you'd like to subscribe, this is an invitation to do so.